Hello, everyone. Today, I want to talk about what it means to be a strong woman. And no, I'm not talking about the kind of strength that comes from muscle or a hard exterior. I'm talking about the strength that comes from within, the kind that's born from embracing our imperfections, owning our stories, and daring to be vulnerable. For so long, we've been told that strength means holding it all together, not showing any cracks, and keeping a stiff upper lip. We've been taught to hide our emotions, to swallow our pain, and to toughen up. But here's the thing: real strength doesn't come from building walls around our hearts. It comes from the courage to tear those walls down. When we think of strength, we often imagine someone who is unbreakable, unyielding, and always in control. But real strength is not about putting on a brave face or pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about being honest with ourselves and others about our emotions, our fears, and our struggles. This is where vulnerability comes into play. Vulnerability, often mistaken for weakness, is one of the greatest sources of strength we have as human beings. It's the courage to show up and be seen, even when we have no control over the outcome. It's about embracing uncertainty and having the bravery to step into the unknown. There's a reason why we avoid vulnerability. It feels risky. It feels like we're opening ourselves up to potential judgment, criticism, or rejection. We think that if we reveal our true selves, our insecurities, our flaws, our fears, others might see us as less capable or less worthy. But the reality is, when we hide behind a facade of perfection or invincibility, we're not only shielding ourselves from potential pain, we're also shutting ourselves off from genuine connection and growth. Strength doesn't come from avoiding discomfort, it comes from embracing it. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we give ourselves permission to experience life fully in all its messiness and beauty. Being vulnerable means admitting when we're not okay. It means asking for help when we need it, rather than suffering in silence. For so many of us, the idea of asking for help feels like admitting defeat, as if we're not strong enough to handle things on our own. But the truth is, it takes immense courage to reach out and say, I can't do this alone. It takes strength to let someone in, to trust them with our pain, and to lean on them for support. In these moments of vulnerability, we actually build stronger bonds with others because we're showing them our true selves. We're letting them see us as we are, rather than as who we think we're supposed to be. There's a profound sense of relief that comes from allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. When we let go of the need to appear perfect, we can breathe a little easier. We no longer have to carry the heavy burden of pretending everything is fine when it's not. We can be honest about our struggles, our fears, and our failures. And in doing so, we give others the permission to do the same. Vulnerability is contagious. When we have the courage to be vulnerable, we create a space where others feel safe to share their own struggles and fears. We show them that it's okay to not have everything figured out, that it's okay to be human. Vulnerability also plays a crucial role in creativity and innovation. Think about it: every new idea, every piece of art, every business venture begins with someone daring to put themselves out there, not knowing if they'll succeed or fail. It takes courage to take a risk, to share your ideas with the world, and to open yourself up to the possibility of rejection or criticism. But without vulnerability, there would be no creativity. We would be stuck in a loop of safe, predictable choices, afraid to take the leaps that lead to new discoveries and breakthroughs. It's the willingness to be vulnerable that allows us to explore new possibilities and to grow beyond our comfort zones. In our relationships, vulnerability is the foundation of trust and intimacy. It's what allows us to connect deeply with others. When we're willing to share our fears, our hopes, our dreams, and our insecurities, we create a bond that goes beyond surface level interactions. We let others see the real us, and in doing so, we invite them to show us their real selves as well. This kind of connection can only be formed when we're willing to be vulnerable, to let down our guard and say, this is who I am, with all my flaws and imperfections. It's in these moments that we experience true intimacy and love, because we're no longer hiding behind a mask of who we think we should be. Being vulnerable doesn't mean sharing every detail of our lives with everyone we meet. It's about knowing when and with whom to share our stories. It's about being authentic and true to ourselves, rather than putting up walls to protect ourselves from potential pain. It's a conscious choice to show up as we are without pretending to be something we're not. And while this can feel incredibly uncomfortable, it's also incredibly powerful. The moments when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable are the moments when we are most alive. We're not hiding, we're not pretending, we're simply being ourselves. It's important to recognize that vulnerability and bravery are two sides of the same coin. Every act of bravery is also an act of vulnerability. Whether we're starting a new job, entering a new relationship, or sharing our ideas with others, we're putting ourselves out there without knowing what the outcome will be. We're risking failure, rejection, and disappointment. But we're also opening the door to possibility, to growth, and to connection. It's in these moments of uncertainty that we find our true strength. Because being vulnerable doesn't mean we're weak, it means we're willing to take a chance. We're willing to be seen, to be heard, and to be known. And that is one of the bravest, strongest things we can do. Owning your story is about accepting every part of your life's journey, the highs, the lows, the triumphs, and the mistakes. It's about recognizing that every experience you've had, every decision you've made, and every moment of joy or sorrow has shaped you into who you are today. To own your story is to embrace it fully without shame or regret, and to let go of the need to fit into the narratives others may have created for you. It means standing in your truth, even when it's uncomfortable or when it doesn't fit the image you think you're supposed to project to the world. It's the radical acceptance of yourself as a whole, complex, imperfect human being. So many of us spend our lives running from our stories. We try to edit out the parts that feel too messy, too painful, or too embarrassing. We live with a fear that if people knew the whole truth about us, the times we failed, the moments we've been hurt, or the decisions we regret, they might judge us or see us differently. We want to present a polished, curated version of our lives, hoping that by doing so we'll be accepted and loved. But this constant editing of our own narrative keeps us trapped. It keeps us from truly knowing ourselves and from being known by others in a deep, authentic way. When we don't own our stories, we give away our power, we allow shame to take control, and we hide behind a mask that prevents us from experiencing genuine connection and growth. Owning your story begins with the willingness to look at your life honestly and to accept it without judgment. It means acknowledging the things you wish had been different, but also recognizing that those moments have shaped you in meaningful ways. It's easy to look back on certain parts of our lives with regret, wishing we had made different choices or wishing things had turned out differently. But every time we reject a part of our story, we reject a part of our story. We reject a part of ourselves. We deny the lessons we've learned, the resilience we've built, and the strength we've gained from facing difficult situations. When we own our stories, we reclaim those parts of ourselves that we've tried to ignore or forget. We integrate our experiences into our whole being and allow them to contribute to our growth. A key aspect of owning your story is letting go of the narratives that others have imposed on you. From a young age, we're often told who we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to act. We're given labels, some positive, some negative, that can shape our self-perception. Maybe you were told you were too sensitive or not smart enough. Perhaps you were labeled the troublemaker or the peacemaker, the one who always has it together, or the one who never quite measures up. These labels, whether spoken or unspoken, can become ingrained in our minds, dictating how we see ourselves and how we think we need to behave to be accepted. But owning your story means breaking free from those labels and defining yourself on your own terms. It's about peeling away the layers of expectations that others have placed on you and discovering who you truly are beneath them. When you start to own your story, you take responsibility for your life. This doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything that's happened or dismissing the impact of things beyond your control. It means acknowledging your role in your own narrative and understanding that you have the power to shape your future. It's about taking ownership of your choices and learning from them, rather than being a passive character in your own life. Owning your story empowers you to take action and make changes where needed. It allows you to move forward with purpose and intention, rather than being stuck in a cycle of blaming others or feeling like a victim of your circumstances. Another important part of owning your story is the ability to share it with others. There is immense power in telling your story, especially the parts that you've kept hidden or that you felt ashamed of. When you share your story, you give others permission to do the same. You create a space where people feel safe to be vulnerable and honest about their own experiences. This kind of authenticity fosters deep, meaningful connections and helps break down the walls of isolation that shame often builds. When we hear someone else's story, we often find parts of ourselves in it. We realize we're not alone in our struggles and that our experiences, no matter how unique they may feel, are part of the shared human journey. It's also important to recognize that owning your story doesn't mean it needs to be shared with everyone. It's about choosing when, where, and with whom you want to share. It's about finding people who have earned the right to hear your story, those who will listen with empathy and without judgment. The goal isn't to broadcast your vulnerabilities to the world, but to be honest with yourself about them. It's about embracing your story as part of your identity, not something to be hidden or ashamed of. Finally, owning your story allows you to write your own ending. When we deny or ignore parts of our past, we often find ourselves stuck, repeating the same patterns and making the same mistakes. But when we embrace our full story, we gain clarity about who we are and what we want. We can see the patterns that have held us back and choose to change them. We can take the lessons we've learned from our past experiences and use them to create a future that aligns with our true selves. Owning your story is a powerful act of self-compassion and self-empowerment. It's a declaration that your past, with all its flaws and struggles, does not define your future. It's an invitation to live authentically, to embrace your whole self, and to create a life that reflects your deepest values and desires. Setting healthy boundaries is a crucial part of maintaining our well-being, protecting our mental health, and fostering healthy relationships. Boundaries are the invisible lines we draw to define what we are comfortable with, what we are willing to accept, and what we need in order to feel safe and respected. They help us honor our own needs while navigating interactions with others, ensuring that we don't lose ourselves in trying to please everyone or meet every expectation placed on us. For many, setting boundaries can feel uncomfortable or even selfish, especially if we have been conditioned to put others' needs before our own. However, establishing clear boundaries is one of the most compassionate things we can do, both for ourselves and for those around us. The first step in setting healthy boundaries is recognizing our own needs, desires, and limits. This requires self-awareness and an honest examination of what feels right and what feels uncomfortable. Often we go through life on autopilot, saying yes to things we don't really want to do because we're afraid of disappointing others, or we push through situations that drain us because we feel obligated. But when we ignore our own needs and limits, we end up feeling resentful, exhausted, and disconnected from ourselves. Taking the time to tune into how we feel about certain situations and relationships helps us understand where our boundaries need to be set. It's about checking in with ourselves regularly and noticing the moments when we feel overwhelmed, taken advantage of, or uncomfortable. These feelings are signals that a boundary may need to be established or reinforced. Communicating our boundaries is a critical aspect of setting them. It's one thing to know what our limits are, but if we don't express them to others, they may unknowingly overstep. Effective communication of boundaries involves being clear, direct, and assertive without being aggressive or confrontational. It can be as simple as saying, I can't take on any additional tasks right now, or I need some time to myself this weekend. Many people struggle with this because they fear conflict or worry that asserting their needs will make them appear rude or selfish. But the truth is, setting boundaries is an act of respect for ourselves and for others. It gives people a clear understanding of where we stand and what we are willing to accept, which reduces misunderstandings and resentment in the long run. When we set clear, kind boundaries, we teach others how we want to be treated. It's also important to remember that we are not responsible for how others react to our boundaries. Often when we start setting limits, especially if we haven't done so in the past, people might be surprised or even upset. This is a natural reaction because boundaries disrupt established patterns of interaction. However, how someone responds to our boundaries is more about them than it is about us. It's not our job to manage their feelings or make them comfortable with our choices. It's our job to honor our own needs and protect our well-being. If someone reacts negatively to a boundary, it can be a sign that the boundary is necessary. Healthy, respectful relationships will adjust to accommodate boundaries, while unhealthy ones may resist them because they are used to benefiting from our lack of limits. Another key aspect of setting boundaries is recognizing that they are not rigid, unchangeable rules. They can be flexible and adaptable depending on the situation and the people involved. For instance, the boundaries we set with close family members may differ from those we establish with colleagues at work. It's about finding a balance between being firm about what we need and being open to adjusting as circumstances change. However, flexibility doesn't mean compromising our core needs or values to appease others. It's about being willing to reconsider a boundary if it no longer serves us or if the context has shifted in a way that makes us feel comfortable adjusting it. This adaptability helps us navigate complex social dynamics without losing sight of our own needs. A common misconception about boundaries is that they create distance between people or make us seem cold and unapproachable. In reality, healthy boundaries do the opposite. They foster deeper, more meaningful connections. When we set boundaries, we create a space where we can engage with others authentically. We're no longer pretending to be okay with things that we aren't, and we're not building up silent resentment. Instead, we're being honest about what we can and cannot do, which allows us to show up fully in our relationships without feeling drained or overwhelmed. Boundaries help us preserve our energy for the people and activities that truly matter to us, making our interactions more genuine and less strained. Setting boundaries is also an essential act of self-care. It's a way of telling ourselves that we matter, that our needs are important, and that we deserve to be treated with respect. It's about prioritizing our well-being rather than constantly putting others first at the expense of our own mental and emotional health. For many people, especially those who identify as caregivers or people pleasers, this can be a difficult shift to make. But self-care is not selfish, it's necessary. We can't pour from an empty cup. And if we're constantly giving without setting limits, we risk burning out and becoming resentful. Boundaries help us protect our energy so that we can show up as our best selves for the people and causes that truly matter. Ultimately, setting healthy boundaries is about cultivating a sense of agency over our own lives. It's about choosing what we will and will not allow and taking responsibility for our own happiness. It's a process that requires practice, patience, and sometimes the willingness to have uncomfortable conversations. But the rewards are profound, greater self-respect, deeper connections, and a stronger sense of inner peace. When we set boundaries, we're making a statement about our own worth. We're saying, I value myself enough to protect my time, my energy, and my emotional well-being, and that is a powerful act of self-love. Embracing imperfection is an act of self-compassion and acceptance that requires us to confront the unrealistic standards of perfection that we and society often impose on ourselves. From a young age, many of us are taught to strive for perfection, whether it's in our academic performance, our careers, our relationships, or our physical appearance. We internalize the belief that if we can just do everything perfectly, we'll be safe from criticism, judgment, and failure. However, this pursuit of perfection is a never-ending cycle that leaves us feeling inadequate, exhausted, and disconnected from our true selves. The truth is, perfection is an illusion, an unattainable goal that keeps us stuck in a state of constant self-evaluation and fear of making mistakes. To embrace imperfection, we first need to recognize the damaging effects of perfectionism on our lives. Perfectionism is often seen as a positive trait or a badge of honor, but it's really a shield we use to protect ourselves from feelings of shame, vulnerability, and failure. It's a way of trying to control how others perceive us by presenting a flawless exterior. But in reality, this obsession with perfection creates a barrier between who we truly are and the image we project to the world. We become so focused on hiding our flaws and shortcomings that we lose touch with our authentic selves. We stop taking risks, avoid trying new things, and shy away from opportunities because we fear not being good enough. In this way, perfectionism keeps us small and prevents us from growing and living fully. Embracing imperfection means letting go of the idea that we need to be perfect to be worthy of love and acceptance. It's about accepting that we are human, and being human means making mistakes, experiencing failure, and having flaws. These experiences are not just inevitable, they are essential to our growth and learning. When we allow ourselves to be imperfect, we open up the possibility for real connection and authenticity in our relationships. People are not drawn to us because we are perfect. They are drawn to us because of our authenticity, our vulnerability, and our willingness to be real. When we share our imperfections with others, we give them permission to do the same, creating a deeper sense of trust and intimacy. One of the biggest challenges in embracing imperfection is dealing with the fear of judgment and criticism. We worry that if we show our true selves flaws and all, people might think less of us. This fear is rooted in a deep-seated belief that our worth is tied to our achievements and the approval of others. But when we base our self-worth on external validation, We put our happiness and sense of self in the hands of others. It's a fragile way to live because we're constantly trying to meet expectations that may be impossible or unrealistic. Embracing imperfection involves shifting our focus away from what others think of us and towards how we feel about ourselves. It's about developing a sense of self-worth that isn't contingent on meeting arbitrary standards, but is rooted in the acceptance of who we are, flaws included. Embracing imperfection also means cultivating a mindset of compassion and kindness towards ourselves. We are often our harshest critics, quick to judge and berate ourselves for even the smallest mistakes. Or we hold ourselves to higher standards than we would ever hold others to, expecting to be perfect in every situation. But self-compassion allows us to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a friend. It means recognizing that making mistakes is a part of being human and that it's okay to not have everything figured out. By practicing self-compassion, we create a supportive inner dialogue that encourages us to keep going, even when things don't go as planned. A key aspect of embracing imperfection is learning to see mistakes and failures as opportunities for growth, rather than as proof of our inadequacy. When we make a mistake, it's easy to fall into a spiral of self-criticism and shame. But mistakes are a natural part of the learning process. They provide us with valuable feedback and insight that we can use to improve and grow. When we view mistakes through the lens of learning rather than judgment, we become more resilient and willing to take risks. We understand that failure is not a reflection of our worth, but a stepping stone on the path to success. This shift in perspective allows us to approach challenges with curiosity and an open mind, rather than fear and self-doubt. Lastly, embracing imperfection is about living authentically and embracing the full range of our human experience. It's about allowing ourselves to be seen as we truly are, without the need to hide or pretend. It's about showing up fully in our lives with all our flaws, insecurities, and uncertainties, and still believing that we are enough. This kind of authenticity is liberating because it frees us from the pressure to constantly perform or prove ourselves. It allows us to experience deeper joy and fulfillment because we are no longer chasing an unattainable ideal of perfection. Instead, we can focus on the things that truly matter: our relationships, our passions, and the joy of simply being ourselves. In embracing imperfection, we learn to appreciate the beauty in our flaws and to find strength in our vulnerabilities. We discover that it's our imperfect moments that often lead to the greatest growth and the most meaningful connections. Finding strength in connection is a powerful antidote to the isolation and loneliness that many of us experience in our daily lives. In a world that often emphasizes individualism and self-reliance, we can forget the profound impact that relationships and community have on our well-being. True strength isn't found in the ability to handle everything on our own, but in recognizing when we need support and reaching out to others. Human beings are inherently social creatures. Our brains are wired for connection. From the moment we are born, we seek out bonds with others, and these bonds play a vital role in our emotional and psychological development. The connections we make with others give us a sense of belonging, provide emotional support, and offer a safe space where we can be vulnerable and authentic. Vulnerability is often seen as a weakness, but it is, in fact, a powerful source of strength. It's the willingness to open up and share our true selves, the good, the bad, and the messy. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable with others, we create the opportunity for genuine connection. This kind of openness requires courage because it involves the risk of being hurt or judged. However, it is through this vulnerability that we build deep, meaningful relationships. By sharing our struggles, fears, and insecurities, we invite others to do the same. We break down the walls that keep us isolated and create a space where empathy and understanding can flourish. In this way, vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but a testament to our inner strength and our desire for connection. When we build strong connections with others, we create a support system that can help us navigate life's challenges. Whether it's a close friend, a family member, or a community group, having people we can turn to in times of need provides us with comfort and reassurance. This network of support can be a source of immense strength when we are feeling overwhelmed or uncertain. Knowing that we are not alone and that there are people who care about us can make even the most difficult situations feel more manageable. The presence of a supportive friend can help us see our problems from a different perspective, offer us encouragement, and remind us of our resilience. It's in these moments of connection that we find the strength to keep going, even when things seem impossible. One of the most profound ways we find strength and connection is through the shared experience of our struggles. When we go through tough times, it's easy to feel like we're the only ones dealing with a particular issue, leading to feelings of isolation and inadequacy. However, when we open up about our experiences and listen to others share their own stories, we realize that we are not alone in our pain. Many people have faced similar challenges and have found ways to overcome them. This shared understanding creates a sense of solidarity and reminds us that we are part of a larger human experience. It helps us feel seen and validated, which can be incredibly empowering. It shifts our mindset from why is this happening to me to I am not alone and I can get through this. Connection also offers us an opportunity to give as well as receive. When we offer support, comfort, or a listening ear to someone else, we not only help them, but also strengthen our own sense of purpose and self worth. Acts of kindness and compassion can lift us out of our own struggles as they remind us of our ability to make a positive impact on someone else's life. This reciprocal relationship of giving and receiving builds trust and deepens our bonds with others. It creates a cycle of support that sustains both parties, providing a source of strength that neither person could access alone. This mutual reliance is a powerful reminder of the interconnectedness of our lives and the importance of community. Additionally, finding strength and connection doesn't mean we need a large circle of friends or acquaintances. The quality of our connections is far more important than the quantity. A deep, meaningful bond with just one person can be incredibly powerful. It's about having relationships where we feel truly seen, heard, and valued. These are the connections that sustain us during difficult times and make the good times even more joyful. They are the relationships where we can show up as our authentic selves without fear of judgment or rejection. In these safe spaces, we can express our emotions freely, knowing that we are accepted just as we are. This kind of acceptance is profoundly validating and can give us the courage to face our fears and challenges head on. Finding strength in connection also requires us to be open to the idea of needing others. In a culture that often glorifies independence and self sufficiency, it can be hard to admit that we need support. We may fear being seen as weak or needy, or we may have been taught that it's better to handle our problems on our own. However, recognizing that we need connection is not a sign of weakness, it's a fundamental part of being human. We all have moments when we need someone to lean on, and allowing ourselves to accept help is a sign of strength. It's an acknowledgement of our shared humanity and a testament to our capacity for trust and intimacy. Finally, the strength we find in connection is not just about getting support, it's also about the joy and fulfillment that relationships bring into our lives. Sharing laughter, celebrating successes, and simply spending time with people we care about adds depth and richness to our existence. These moments of connection remind us of what truly matters and give us a sense of meaning and purpose. They provide us with memories that we can hold onto during tough times and fill our hearts with gratitude. When we invest in our relationships and make an effort to connect with others, we build a foundation of support, love, and resilience that can sustain us through anything life throws our way. In essence, finding strength and connection is about embracing our need for others and recognizing that we are stronger together than we are alone. It's about allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, offering and receiving support, and nurturing the relationships that bring us comfort and joy. When we prioritize connection, we tap into a powerful source of strength that helps us navigate life's challenges with courage and grace. Redefining strength is about shifting our perspective on what it truly means to be strong. Society has traditionally viewed strength as the ability to be stoic, self-reliant, and unyielding in the face of adversity. It's often associated with physical power, control, and the capacity to handle life's challenges without showing vulnerability. We're taught to power through difficulties, to tough it out, and to view emotions like fear, sadness, or uncertainty as weaknesses to be overcome. However, this narrow definition of strength can be limiting and at times harmful. It prevents us from embracing the full range of our humanity and hinders our ability to connect with others on a deeper level. True strength, in its most authentic form, is far more nuanced and complex than mere endurance or self-sufficiency. It is found in our ability to be vulnerable, to ask for help, and to acknowledge our imperfections. One of the most significant shifts in redefining strength is recognizing that vulnerability is not a weakness, but rather a powerful source of courage. It takes immense strength to be open about our fears, insecurities, and struggles. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we take a risk putting ourselves out there without any guarantee of acceptance or understanding. This requires a kind of bravery that is far deeper than simply masking our emotions or pushing through pain. It's about having the courage to say, I don't have all the answers or I'm struggling right now. By embracing vulnerability, we open ourselves up to genuine connection with others, as it is often in these moments of shared struggle that we build the strongest bonds. It is through our openness that we create the space for empathy, understanding, and mutual support. Redefining strength also means embracing emotional resilience, the ability to navigate and recover from emotional setbacks. Traditionally, we might have thought that the strongest people are those who seem unaffected by hardship or who never show their emotions. But emotional resilience isn't about suppressing our feelings. It's about being able to experience a full range of emotions, including pain and sadness, and still find a way to move forward. It involves acknowledging our feelings, allowing ourselves to process them, and using that experience to grow. Rather than being a sign of weakness, expressing our emotions and facing our pain head on is a testament to our strength. It shows that we are willing to confront our inner struggles rather than avoid them. In doing so, we develop a deeper understanding of ourselves and cultivate a sense of inner peace. Another important aspect of redefining strength is the willingness to ask for help. Many of us have been conditioned to believe that asking for assistance is a sign of weakness, as if it implies that we are incapable of handling our problems on our own. However, true strength lies in recognizing when we need support and being brave enough to reach out. It takes courage to admit that we don't have all the answers and that we can't do everything alone. By seeking help, whether from friends, family, or professionals, we demonstrate a deep sense of self-awareness and a commitment to our well-being. We acknowledge our humanity and accept that, as part of a community, we are interconnected and can draw strength from our relationships. This willingness to ask for help creates a ripple effect, making it easier for others to do the same, thus fostering a culture of mutual support and care. Redefining strength also involves letting go of the need for constant control. We often equate strength with the ability to control every aspect of our lives, to have everything planned out, and to prevent any unexpected disruptions. But life is inherently unpredictable, and trying to control everything can lead to stress, anxiety, and burnout. Real strength lies in our ability to adapt and find balance amidst the uncertainty. It's about accepting that we cannot control every outcome and learning to navigate life's unexpected twists with grace and flexibility. This doesn't mean giving up or becoming passive, but rather being open to change and resilient in the face of setbacks. It's about being able to pivot when necessary to find new paths forward and to trust in our capacity to handle whatever comes our way. A critical part of this redefinition is also understanding that strength is not synonymous with never failing. Failure is often seen as a sign of weakness or inadequacy, something to be avoided at all costs. But failure is an integral part of growth and learning. It provides us with valuable lessons and insights that we wouldn't gain from success alone. The strongest individuals are not those who never fail, but those who can pick themselves up after a setback, learn from their mistakes, and keep moving forward. They see failure as a stepping stone rather than an endpoint, using it as a tool for self-improvement rather than a measure of their worth. By redefining strength to include the ability to learn from failure, we allow ourselves the freedom to take risks, to try new things, and to step outside our comfort zones. Lastly, redefining strength means embracing compassion both for ourselves and for others. It's about recognizing our own humanity and treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer a loved one. Self-compassion involves forgiving ourselves for our mistakes, acknowledging our efforts, and being gentle with ourselves during tough times. This inner kindness builds a strong foundation for resilience because it helps us bounce back from setbacks without the burden of self-criticism and shame. When we extend this compassion to others, we create a supportive environment that encourages collective strength.